day, everyone, and welcome to Benita's Maternity Program webinar. Today, we've got Sister Colleen Africa online with us, and she's going to be speaking to us about postnatal depression.
So, ladies, gentlemen, whoever is listening this morning or watching me, I've been a midwife for the last at least 13 or 14 years. I'm also the mother to a 21-year-old and a 3-year-old. So it has been a very fun journey. Motherhood has just taken up the last 2 centuries of my life. And I myself had a experience with postnatal depression where I convinced myself I'm a midwife, I've been a nurse, I've been a nursing sister for so many years. I would know what to expect. I've raised my daughter, and when the second one came along, I just thought, this would be a breeze. And firstly, labor didn't go the way I expected. Planning on a normal birth, fiercely wanting the normal birth, landed up with a C-section at 34 weeks. And then a spinal that only halfway worked, being in tears at 2 o'clock in the morning, where we thought it was a kidney stone, and it was eventually Nina Grace making her way into this world. And from there, it has been a whirlwind of emotions, where I am one of the midwives that always warn my new moms about baby blues, about postnatal depression, how their partners can be supportive, and how they must just allow themselves the time to recover from birth. Because one of the most important lessons I learned in my first year was that to just recover from the shock your body goes through from pregnancy right up to birth takes you at least a year. And as a woman, I would say it would take you at least 5 years, because it's 5 years of uninterrupted nights, interrupted sleep, interrupted feeding, interrupted bathroom breaks. And as a mother, you always think you're able to handle everything. And the hard lesson for me to learn was, as a midwife, as a sister, as a mother, for a second time, this time around, it was just too much. It was very, very difficult for me to admit that I was not coping. And the surprising thing for me was that the height of my depression was not within when I had the newborn that wasn't sleeping and wasn't feeding and all the stress of that. It was a year later. I just never got back to feeling like myself. I never got back to a place where I felt like I was coping with life. I had a new husband, a new baby, a teenager that also needed my attention. I had a very stressful job. I was a senior sister in a surgical ward in a very busy hospital. So I wanted to cover everything, and I'd been able to cope at that point with everything, convincing myself that this is just another stepping stone. And eventually, I had to admit that this was too much. We landed up going to a psychologist, and in his office, the minute he started explaining the symptoms of postnatal depression, the difference between baby blues and postnatal depression, like the feelings of incompetency, the feelings of life just being a bit too much for you, and how that is not a weakness, how that is no indication of your ability as a woman, as a mother. I just felt like somebody was hearing me for the first time. And it gave me the courage, the strength to carry on. It also, I could see how I was not really bonding with my baby at that point. I was doing everything right. She was growing well. She was developing at a very fast rate, but I was just not connecting. And for me, it was very, very surprising to actually look at our relationship, because for me, I've always been a mothering type. So midwifery just came naturally to me. I love standing next to their bed. I love supporting my new moms. I love giving them the confidence to do this thing that everybody says comes naturally. And you only find out once you've actually given birth. There's nothing so natural about this process. You learn every day. That baby teaches you, and you, just as you teaching that baby, it's something that you have to take step by step. And once I actually got onto a psychologist, psychiatrist, they started me on medication. And it was never the stigma I thought was going to be attached to it. I never felt the judgment of people because I'm not coping. I never felt like I was never going to get back to who I was. I did, however, enjoy the fact that as a woman, we go through phases. We have hormones running all over the world, and you should, must give yourself the time to recover from everything. It was so nice to just be able to tell everybody, to tell my partner, um, I'm not coping. I haven't been coping for a while. The smiling that you see is just a cover for somebody that feels more than exhausted. And I know there are so many women out there, so many new mothers that spend their time silently hoping and wishing and praying somebody would give them a break. And we usually don't really ask for that break, because that would mean you're not coping. And if your mother from 50 years ago could cope raising 6 children, how can't you cope with this one newborn? But in these days, there is such a lot of things that is expected from you as a woman. We are just expected to cope. We are expected to, in this modern world, to recover from birth instantaneously, to be breastfeeding, to be cooking and cleaning and getting back to your job so quickly that you get lost in it all. And for me, after I took the break, because it took me 21 days of lying in a clinic where I didn't have to worry about what everybody was eating, why my baby was crying, if there's anything I'm doing wrong or not doing right, for me to get my head back. And this is 2 years after that. I am at such a better place. I'm able to love my babies, big and small. I'm able to give to my husband, give to my family, and do my job at my best. And if I didn't take that break, if I didn't admit that I was not coping, I am actually scared to think where I would be. I am this morning only, or this afternoon, sorry, only speaking about my personal experience. And I know there's a major difference between postnatal depression and postnatal psychosis. So for me, it's important that mothers know themselves and admit to themselves if things are not going the way you think they ought to. Even if you just discuss it with your midwife, with your gynecologist, obstetrician. There's so many chat rooms online these days, so many mother groups online. If you just discuss it with somebody, so that you have another voice in your head. A newborn is no sounding board, because you speak to them, they shout. You ask them questions, they shout. And if you're lucky, you get a very wet nappy as a good response. But you need to talk to somebody. You need to know yourself that when things are not going the way they're supposed to, or you think they're supposed to, you need to take that break, that minute to breathe, that minute to just assess that, is this something that is just so outside of my comfort zone that it's going to take me a while to just adjust? Or is this something that is too much? It's no weakness. It's no indication of your abilities at all. It's not going to be anything held against you. Just remember that these babies we bring into this world, you are the main source of life. And you're already doing an awesome job just getting them into this world. And the fact that it becomes overwhelming means that you love them so much that you want to do more. And sometimes that more is a detriment to yourself. So just shout. Just shout. I know there is somebody somewhere that is going to listen. There's always our answers out there. And there's always somebody that's willing to listen. But you need to shout. You need to say, I'm breathing, but it feels like I'm drowning at the same time. I think all women are awesome. I think we sometimes undermine ourselves, and we sometimes go through these phases where we think we can't. We think we're not able to. We think that we're weaker than we really are. I think that's more to fool the men in our lives. But we are all awesome. And we are made to break and be put back together. We are made to nurture and love, and we are just beings that are there for others. And sometimes it is really, you have nothing left to give. So those are the times you need to look around you at what are your resources, who can I turn to, who's going to listen. Don't take advice. Don't even follow anything anybody tells you to do. Please just at least talk first. From there, you can decide what you think is going to be the best path for you to follow. But at least just first talk to someone.